I bought my M3 for $15,000. What if I'd spent 10 times that? Well, I might get this car. This is an M3 owned by Vorsteiner, who make wheels, carbon fiber parts, and they're also the parent company of Gunther Works, who make 993 Porsches that are as exciting to drive as they are unaffordable. Now, this is wearing Vorsteiner's new V20 carbon fiber aero kit, which they designed and built to celebrate the company's 20th anniversary. It's a lot cooler than paper or diamonds or whatever married people get. Now, Peter Nam, the CEO of this company, allegedly sold his M3 to fund the startup of Vorsteiner. So this is kind of a present for him. It's very cool. So what did they build? Well, Vorsteiner made the hood, the vents, the front bumper, the front splitter, the rear CSL style trunk, and rear splitter, all out of carbon fiber, all made right here in Southern California. It's not cheap. Those parts cost about $12,000, and that's not counting the amazing custom Mystic Blue paint. It also doesn't count the seats inside, which are the Gunther Works version 2. But all of these lightweight parts do save 200 pounds. Under my hood, I keep my mechanics retirement fund, but this is different. Here we have an amazing, gorgeous carbon fiber CSL style intake, and that feeds air into the engine, which is basically stock, but has a full Super Sprint race exhaust, headers all the way to the back. The sound will be up for some discussion. Makes about 380 horsepower, they say, but with the car being about 200 pounds lighter, that seems like a good combination. This car has all the Alcantara, steering wheel, pillars, headliner, all of it has been redone. These seats are the first thing you notice. They kind of leap to the eye. They're taken out of the Gunther Works Porsche. The fitment isn't perfect. They're angled slightly left because this has a larger transmission tunnel than the Porsche does, but they're more comfortable than they look. There's also, of course, Vorsteiner's really, really nice carbon fiber center console and the door cards. The quality is amazing. The fitment of these is really, really impressive. I mean, almost nothing in this car has been left untouched. Pedals, even the pull for the hood is now milled aluminum. It also has Ohlins road and track suspension in a giant Brembo big brake kit. But the one thing you might notice is this little knob here. It's an SMG car. It does have the CSL transmission programming, which should make it a little quicker to shift than the last SMG car I drove, and it has 410 gears in the back. So all told, seems like the recipe for a pretty good drive.
Guys, today's video wouldn't be possible without the help of our sponsor, Movaglobe, and I love these things, and so does everyone who comes to Westside Collector Car Storage. I get asked about these globes all the time. They spin powered by light. There's no batteries, there's no cords. It's totally standalone, and they are beautiful. And it doesn't have to be natural light either. It can be indoor light. We'll make them work also. There's hidden magnets in there that provide the movement. It's a proprietary design and first of its kind technology. They are so cool. They've got all these different styles, right, from small to big, and they've got sort of the old school globe. They've got the satellite view. They've got planetary and moon views. The graphics are provided by NASA and JPL. They are so cool. You can get a small one, a big one, an old one, a new one, a whole solar system even. It's amazing. You can browse the entire collection on their website. And by using code SMOKINGTIRE at checkout, you can enjoy 10% off the 6 and 8.5 inch globes. Get one for yourself, get one for a friend or a loved one. Everybody loves these things. And thank you to Movaglobe for sponsoring today's video.
Now, if there's one thing I know about Gunther Works, the people that work there, the people that may be attached to it through Vorsteiner, they know how to set up the ride and handling of a car. So this car, we've got Vorsteiner wheels wearing 235 Michelin PS4s in the front, 275s in the rear, staggered stance. My car, by comparison, runs a square stance. So what do I notice right off the bat? Well, the steering is much lighter. That is one thing I wanted in my car with the wider front tires. I wanted more steering feedback. So this feels lighter. It feels more like, Ferrari is known for having light steering. It's very quick and easy to use. This feels like that. That relatable reference. We've all driven Ferraris. The steering is just lighter. It's still a little bit dead on center, as all E46s are. But this has sway bars and Ohlins road and track suspension. And what I notice is that the turn-in is really nice, really quick, without being twitchy. It didn't tramline on the highway. It didn't take me where I didn't want to go. It was a really comfortable, grand touring experience. And then up here, it turns into the corners so naturally. My car, you can give about 2 inches of steering wheel input, and then the car takes over the rest. It wants to turn. This, you got to manage it a little bit, but it is a delightful balance between light steering and focus. Another thing about the suspension was that on the way up here, there was a lot less noise coming through the car when I would hit expansion joints and cracks in the road and stuff like that. So the car felt softer, but it didn't feel disconnected from the road. So these shocks and these springs are definitely a little gentler than the KW Club Sports I have on my car, but for a grand touring setup, I have no notes. Can I feel the weight savings of all the carbon fiber parts? I don't know. My car is a slick top. This has a sunroof that weighs a little bit more. This car also just feels more buttoned down. Part of that is a lack of sound deadening. We've got these carbon fiber door cards that look amazing. The carbon seats, there's less padding in the seats. So on the way up here on the highway, I felt like I was bouncing around more than I do in my car. And I thought, oh, the suspension's too stiff. But what it actually was is there's just less padding on the seats. My seat does a lot of work, cushioning my skeleton from imperfections in the road. And these carbon buckets do a lot less of that, of course. But what they do very well is hold you in place. I am expending 0.0 amount of energy or thought to keep my body in front of the steering wheel. This is the right amount of shoulder bolster. I don't need more than this. This is great. On a long trip, they might be a little firm, the lack of lumbar might be a thing, but look, if you're buying a set of these seats, you can afford to add a little cushion or ask them to add a little cushion. Have one made. Let's talk about power since we're on a straightaway. As I said, this has a full exhaust, a CSL intake, and 410 gears. This car came stock with a 362 rear differential gear. 410 seems like a good improvement for acceleration. But it does have the SMG. As you may know, all CSL M3s came with an SMG transmission. Now they say the CSL got better programming for the SMG than the normal M3 did. So turn the shift point all the way up to quickest. Let's see how it is. Shifting at 7,500 RPM. I gotta say, even with that software, it's just the only thing that feels dated on the car. It is the only thing, because transmissions have advanced so much in the last 20 years. A ZF 8-speed, which is technically just a normal automatic, shifts much faster. Forget a dual clutch. That just embarrasses this thing. There's quite a stutter. If you shift while still on throttle, it kind of jerks. And if you lift to shift, it's smoother, but it's not really that fast. And if I'm gonna lift off the throttle to shift, might as well have a 6-speed manual. And I mean, the good thing with these cars is if you're industrious or want to pay someone to be, you can take off some parts, add a third pedal, and use the exact same transmission that you have with your SMG. Because you just have a robot doing the shifting for you. But the gearing does make a difference. Third gear in this car is magical. That is where you want to be. It's got a great breadth to it. Definitely accelerates faster than my car does in third. It is a half measure between second and third, and it is nice. The gearing in the M3 tends to be a little tall. And that's why it gets 28 miles per gallon highway if the weather's nice. But up in the canyons, a lot of times I have to kind of choose between second and third, and neither one's optimal. This is really, really nice. I honestly don't know if I can feel the power difference, and that's something that has kept me from spending money on horsepower in the M3, because it tends to be expensive. A CSL intake is not cheap. The tune, cams from Schrick or somewhere else are pretty expensive items. And, you know, in a race car, you'll notice the difference because you'll pull on your opponent, but out on the street or in the canyons, the difference to me between 300 and 380 is really hard to feel. The gearing, you definitely feel. These brakes are so good. I have driven 5 different M3s. I've driven a dine-in car. This is the best pedal feel I've ever experienced in an E46. It is perfect. It's not too firm up top. It loads up really progressively. Oh man, Brembo GT brakes, shout out, big fan. And they don't feel so aggressive that they feel strange in a street car. See, that's really what this is. This is a street car, it's not a race car. Although, if you listen to it, you might think it's a race car. I'm sure that the Super Sprint exhaust helps flow a lot. I'm sure it helps power, especially at the top end, but this is not what I want in terms of sound from a straight E46 M3. The sound is subjective. I think it sounds like a chorus of leaf blowers. Not very complimentary, but some people might be really into that angry rasp. Okay, that's fine. But the real downside is that the exhaust sound completely overwhelms the intake. So I know that I love a modified intake on an E46. The induction sound is wonderful. I am hearing zero of it. We've got that beautiful, expensive CSL airbox up there, and I can't hear a lick of it. It's like getting a brand new, expensive stereo system. You install it in your house, and you press play, and then the gardeners for the entire neighborhood show up right in that moment. You know, all I want to do is hear this beautiful music that I know is right there, but there's all this noise in the backyard, in the front yard, and down the street. It's a shame. I can do a number of impressions and accents, but one I'm not very good at doing is 350Z. I think this E46 is doing a pretty good impression of that car. This is an absolutely stunning execution, both visually and dynamically, of an E46 M3. And talk about a cool anniversary gift for the CEO. We probably all know someone that sold something they loved so that they could start a business or, you know, change something about their life. And we always feel a bit of pain for them. We go, oh, it's a bummer you had to sell that thing, you know? You really liked it. When I first moved to LA, I had a 2006 STI that I had saved and saved and saved for. I'd worked 2 jobs for a number of years to buy that car, and I just couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford to keep it. I sold it, I went on this car journalism adventure, and, you know, here I am. And selling it was the right move. If I wanted to keep it, I would have had to say no to projects that didn't pay any money, etc., etc. So while it probably really hurt Peter when he had to sell his E46 M3 to start his company, I'd say it was a good ROI because that investment has allowed him to make a company that has global respect, high quality products, and a company underneath it named Gunther Works that builds some of the craziest Porsches you will ever see and will probably ever exist. They're basically beautiful race cars you can drive on the street. So I'm glad Peter's got an M3 again. And I have to say, this is a damn good one. Just Just change the transmission. Woo! Oh, well done. Well done, Vorsteiner. This is a great billboard you got here.
And remember, always fight your tickets on the Off the Record app available in the Android and iOS store, or go to offtherecord.com/TST.